Hey, welcome back to Room 237. This is John, here with another video. This is sort of a different video. I haven't done one like this yet, but as a horror fan, I knew I'd have to talk about this eventually. And that is the era of remakes. Now, there have been horror remakes since there's been horror since there's been horror movies. But there's one particular era that hasn't quite ended yet, and that's sort of what I'm going to get into. A little history, and my opinions, and then sort of what's to come, as if we need it. But see, the thing about remakes is, once upon a time, they were done because, movies that were made before were either classics, B movies, or just didn't do well. And filmmakers thought, well, we could do it for a new generation, or we can improve it. That was the thought. That was back when I think Hollywood kind of gave a shit. And then there was a year in a movie that came out. It was successful, and they haven't gone away since. That was in 2003, and I'll get to that. But, I mean, there's been horror movies for a long time. I mean, Phantom of the Opera, which is, I think the original was in, 25. It was remade in 43. It's been a long time since I've seen even a couple of the Hammer films from the 50s. Like Dracula, Frankenstein, stuff like that. I don't remember if those are their own thing or if those are also remakes. Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland was remade in 78. That's a movie from the 50s. Many people consider the 78 version to be the best version of Body Snatchers. Nosferatu, which was originally a 1922 German film, was remade in 79. Then in the 80s you had some sci-fi movies, sci-fi horror movies that had great or not so great success, but each one of those was like a field day for special effects artists. And that was, hold on a second. I pulled some sites up with the complete list. So, 82, you had John Carpenter's The Thing, which I love dearly. I haven't seen the original, which is called The Thing from Another World. 86, David Cronenberg redid The Fly, which I just saw for the first time recently. I've always known about it, but I never got around to seeing it. I had a great time with that. I haven't seen the original Fly, which I think is from the 60s. Then in 88, Chuck Russell remade The Blob, which I still need to see. And, but it seems good. I mean, all practical effects, which I want to do another video soon about practical versus CGI. And, hold on, make sure I get all these. Because I have 2 pages open. But then in the 90s, you had some not so successful ones. Tom Savini in 90 remade Night of the Living Dead, which I actually enjoy. Body Snatchers was remade again, but it was very low budget and never amounted to anything. In 98, Gus Van Sant remade Psycho. Why? But that was more of like a college film student project. I mean, it wasn't, but it felt like one, because it is literally shot for shot, line for line, frame for frame, sequence for sequence of the original. There's videos on YouTube of 1960 Psycho, 1998 Psycho, where literally it's the same thing. The only difference is one's in color, one's not. But that's also a testament to how great some directors and actors are. Because Hitchcock's Psycho, one of the greatest movies ever made, Gus Van Sant's Psycho with Vince Vaughn sucks ass. 99, House on Haunted Hill was remade. 2001, 13 Ghosts was remade. I actually didn't even know that was a remake until recently. But, and then mixed into that, like I think 2001 or 2 was The Ring, which was originally a Japanese film called Ringu, which most people probably know that. Which I think The Ring, honestly, is one of the most overrated horror films of all time. But then in 2003, Michael Bay, yeah, the guy that does Transformers, those piece of shit Ninja Turtles movies, with on top of his own action films that I never saw, he wanted to do a remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No one knows why, but he did. And he had a production company, still has a production company called Platinum Dunes, which is made for like up-and-coming directors, new directors. And all the horror movie remakes that he was a part of are done through Platinum Dunes. Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 2003. I was in 6th grade. I had fun with it. It was the first Chainsaw Massacre film I saw. I think it looks very good because director Marcus Nispel originally did music videos. So he knows how to do different things and get different stuff going on. I still like it. I mean, when you compare it to other Chainsaw films, like, I'm not even the biggest fan of Chainsaw 2, to be honest. It's growing on me, but, you know, Chainsaw 3, The Next Generation, those movies are fucking terrible. The Next Generation turned Leatherface into a little bitch. So the remake made it scary again, so I still like that. And ever since, they just haven't gone away. They just remade almost everything. I mean, actually one I forgot to mention was in 97, there was a TV remake of The Shining. 3-part TV miniseries that Stephen King actually got involved in because he hated Stanley Kubrick's original film. And I feel like some movies are sacred, can't be touched. Like, The Exorcist was never remade. It was a short-lived TV series, but it was never remade. And I figured I would wear, one, my new shirt, but also one of my favorite movies of all time, one that has not been remade yet, Jaws. Do not remake Jaws, please. It'll be a CGI shark and it will suck. This should be untouchable. So, bring up my list. I wanted to go by year because then it'd be easier, but can do it this way. 2001 Maniacs was remade in 2005. That had Robert Englund. That's a remake of a Herschel Gordon Lewis film in late 60s, early 70s. I have both. It's alright. It's weird. But I mean, you know, it's pretty much this town of crazy rednecks in the South kind of killing these travelers through. It's not bad. I expected more. A lot of these I have to click on to see when the hell they actually came out or whatever they are. That's a Hindi film. Amityville Horror would have been one of the next big ones to get remade. Well, actually, so yeah, Chainsaw Massacre was 2003. In 2004, Zack Snyder did Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead, now, horror remakes have plagued Hollywood. The only reason why they make them is because they make money. And that's what Hollywood's become. It's not about passion or jobs or art anymore. It's just about money. And for better or worse, most horror movie remakes are still successful. Because horror movies are usually successful, at least financially. And even though I say it plagued Hollywood, and usually the word shit is associated with remake, Dawn of the Dead is one of the diamonds in the rough. It is a fantastic horror movie. It's a great movie. And even weirder, it's a Zack Snyder film. And if you follow my channel, you know I'm not a Zack Snyder guy. His DC stuff, I'm not a fan of. What he did to Superman and, you know, all the Batman and Superman, Justice League stuff, I'm not a fan of. But he did Dawn of the Dead. And now that's a perfect example of what a remake should do. It took what it needed from the original. The rest, he, you know, revamped for modern stuff, modern times, made it his own, and it worked. And making the zombies run, that's awesome. So yeah, Dawn of the Dead was a great remake. That was why when I did my top 25 horror films, Dawn of the Dead, I held up both. Because the original Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite horror films too. So Dawn of the Dead was great. 2005, you had House of Wax, which is kind of a weird one because at this time they were really sticking to really popular classics of the 70s and 80s. And House of Wax is a Vincent Price film from the 50s. But I actually like House of Wax. Kind of feels like a Twilight Zone episode. I do have House of Wax. I have almost all the movies I already mentioned. I haven't seen the original. I think I have it in my... I have like a thick case of 50 horror classics. I think House of Wax is in there. But I have the remake. Kind of feels kind of Twilight Zone-y. And you get to see Paris Hilton get a brutal death, which you could put that in any horror movie and it would be awesome. Also in 2005, you had the Amityville Horror. And it was made by the same like writers and producers of Chainsaw Massacre. And I had the original. I do like it a lot. I had the remake, but I got rid of it. There's a lot of movies that I don't have anymore because I don't know what happened to them. I just don't know. Or I got rid of them. Because I needed money and I got rid of the shitty ones. But I remember watching the behind the scenes and those same two writers, Brad Fuller and I can't remember the name of the other guy, say like, this is the next movie we have to make. You know, this is the next big horror film that we're going to do. As if they had like an agenda that they're going to revolutionize horror by doing classics. But Amityville Horror 2005, it starred Ryan Reynolds. At the time, I liked it. Kind of reminded me of The Shining. But, you know, when I saw it years later, it was kind of like, this sucks. It is really bad. Very different from the original in the worst way, especially since it's a true story. But anyway, from there it gets kind of fuzzy, so. All Cheerleaders Must Die was 2013. I haven't seen either one of those. Anthropophagus 2000. Oh, that's a German movie. Remake of the 8. I've heard of it. I haven't seen either one. April Fool's Day. I have the original. I liked it. That came out in 86. When I first saw it, I felt, one, there's no gore, and if you know the twist at the end, then you'll know why. I felt cheated, thought it was stupid. But then I saw it years later, and I actually liked it. I have not seen the remake, but, you know, just look at that. A guy I watch on YouTube, he loves the original, and he said that this actually looks and feels like a daytime soap opera. Like the quality of film and stuff. And I guess it did terribly. The Bad Seed, I haven't seen either one. Bigfoot. Was that from this? Oh, that's an Asylum film. Asylum is like a sci-fi horror production company that purposely does rip-offs of more popular movies. Black Christmas, okay. I still have not seen the 1974 original. I very much want to. I just have not come across it anywhere. I have the 2006 remake, which is a piece of shit. I don't like it. I mean, some of the deaths of the sorority girls is cool. The legend of the killer, the way the story is told, I like that, but the movie itself sucks. I very much would like to see the original. The Blob I talked about. Oh, so 93 was when that last Body Snatchers film came out. Oh, Cabin Fever. I still don't know why they remade that. 2016. I don't care to see it because the original 2002 or 3 film by Eli Roth, that's my favorite Eli Roth film. I would say it's underrated. A lot of people don't like it, but it's sort of like Evil Dead, but with a skin-eating virus. So yeah, they remade that in 2016. I don't care to see it. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was remade 2005. Don't know why. It's a German expressionist film, like Nosferatu, came out in the 1920s. I saw it, but I was like in high school. I watched it on my laptop. I don't remember much. Carrie was remade twice. 2002 TV movie, which I didn't see. Then the 2013 film. I have both the 76 original and 2013. 76 is a classic with Sissy Spacek. It's slow, but it's a classic movie. The 2013 film, I read one review that said it felt more like an X-Men movie because of how she discovers her powers. It is. It does feel like that. It just a lot of stuff about it. I mean, Carrie's supposed to be the ugly duckling, yet the girl that plays her is prettier than all like the popular girls that bully her. Just it was people that didn't know what they were doing. Children of the Corn was remade in 2009. I didn't see that. I used to have the original. I mean, it's okay. It's just another 80s Stephen King adaptation. Click. Oh, that's a Hindi film. The Crazies, I actually did not know was a remake when I first saw it. The original is a 73 movie by George Romero, and I have not seen that yet. At one point, I was going to buy all these old horror movies, and I just ended up doing something else. But I really like The Crazies. You know, a virus that just makes people become like these methodical kind of killers. It's like a zombie film if zombies actually killed people practically. I do like that movie a lot. It's funny how people consider The Crazies to be a zombie movie, but not 28 Days Later. I don't. Even though The Crazies is still a virus. What is Dark? That's not what I wanted. Dark Water. Okay. The thing about Wikipedia is that it's very, even if it's based on an older short story, they'll call it a remake. I already talked about Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Now, the original 85 George Romero Day of the Dead, I think is still one of the greatest zombie movies ever made. Some of the best gore effects ever. It was remade 2008. I saw it. There's a lot of CGI, which I think is bullshit. Very little to do with the original. They do some very stupid ideas, like how zombies can climb walls and ceilings, like Spider-Man. There's a vegetarian zombie, so he like befriends and helps. It is fucking stupid. However, I've seen it twice. First time I saw it, I was really high. Second time I saw it, was when I was drinking. Part way through it, I kind of forgot it was Day of the Dead, and it felt like I was just watching another generic zombie film, and it didn't really bother me. I mean, it's something I can sit through. I know it's a shitty movie, but, you know, it's still zombies eating people. But as a remake, yeah, it fucking sucks. It is a piece of shit film. And it actually just got remade again. It's called Day of the Dead Bloodline. I haven't seen it yet. It literally just came out like last year. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the original either. But there's actually Dracula in popular culture, so I know there's a bunch of them. The original 30s Dracula with Bela Lugosi is still my favorite vampire movie, next to Nosferatu. Evil Dead. Evil Dead is my favorite remake. People love it or hate it. The Evil Dead remake of 2013 is my favorite remake. I remember I was with my ex-girlfriend. I can't remember what we went to go see. We were in the theaters, and I saw the poster on the wall. And you know how the tagline was like the whole poster, kind of the way Carrie's was. And I saw Evil Dead, and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna remake Evil Dead, and it's gonna be this CGI, more. When I say paranormal, I mean more like Haunting in Connecticut, that stupid shit. I thought it was gonna be more like that. I was like, they're gonna ruin Evil Dead. About a month or so later, I saw the Red Band trailer, and I thought it was awesome. Then I waited 4 months to see it, saw it opening weekend, and I loved it. Evil Dead, I still think, is the best remake. The Eye, which a lot of people probably forgot, that movie with Jessica Alba. I used to live with a buddy of mine, and his girlfriend at the time. I thought that movie sucked. Flatliners, I've heard of that, but I haven't seen it. The Fly, I already talked about. That was a great movie. The Fog, yes. 2005's The Fog, remake of the John Carpenter film. Now, I'm not big on ghost movies, but John Carpenter's The Fog is actually pretty good. I actually like it a lot. They turned it into a PG-13 CW film with, what's his name? Tom Welling. Was he Clark Kent in Smallville? Yeah, he's the lead. So it's just a PG-13 CW piece of shit. It is one of the worst ones I've ever seen. Friday 13th, I've seen every movie. I actually saw Friday 13th in theaters. My parents took me and a buddy of mine. Now see, Friday 13th follows a formula that's very simple. Teenagers, make them drink, smoke, have sex, get killed, have the virgin live at the end. And this is done by the same team. Yeah, Michael Bay, Andrew Form, that was the guy's name I couldn't remember. Andrew Form and Brad Fuller. Those are the guys that do a bulk of these big Hollywood remakes. And they did Friday the 13th. They incorporated the first 4 Friday the 13th films, which I think are the best ones, and came up with this original idea. And I thought it was really good. All the deaths, all the gore and blood is done practically, which, you know, it has to be for Friday the 13th. Same with Evil Dead. But I mean, my favorite Friday the 13th is still the original. Even though Jason's not in it, that's still my favorite one. But this is definitely one of the better remakes. See, actually, I consider this to be a reboot. Ones like this, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this, Nightmare on Elm Street, I consider those to be reboots because they just wanted to restart the franchise and do more sequels. So there's a difference between reboot and remake, but I had fun with Friday the 13th. Fright Night, I never saw. I like the 86 original. I used to have it. You know, Chris Sarandon was a good vampire in that movie. This was, what, 2011? So this was kind of around Twilight time. So, of course, they made Colin Farrell a sparkling vampire. And I never had any desire to see it just because they did that. The Grudge, that's another American remake. I think that's overrated as well, even though I have it. Halloween. Rob Zombie's Halloween. 2007, I was in 7th or 8th grade. I wanted to see it really bad. At that time, I had seen all the Halloween films. I thought it was more brutal, more violent. You got to see the backstory of him as a kid. I thought it was awesome. But then as time went on, I got more into and appreciated more John Carpenter's original. And I started thinking of this one less and less and less. Because Michael Myers is supposed to be just a figure of evil. He's known as the Shape, because he's just a shape of a human. He's just evil. But in Rob Zombie's Halloween, he made him a cookie cutter, textbook, generic, how I became a serial killer. And yes, I have read plenty of serial killer stuff. You know, bad home environment, bullied at school, kills animals. Just, yeah, how I became a serial killer. And, excuse me, there's actually videos of Rob Zombie in interviews saying, you know, why would I remake Halloween? If it was perfect the first time, why remake it? Then he signed on to do it. I'm not going to explain why Michael Myers is evil, and then he did. And there's other stuff around it, but I thought it was kind of pointless. And then he was like, my story ended, so why would I do a sequel? Then he did H2, which is more of a Rob Zombie film than a Halloween film, to be honest. And I saw that in theaters. I have every Halloween film except for the one that just came out. The Haunting, oh, that was actually in 99. I never saw that. I don't care for paranormal movies. Hills Have Eyes. Yes, this is another one that I would say was very good. The 1977 Wes Craven original, I mean, it's okay. But this is another example of how remakes should be done. The first two acts are much like the original, but then the whole third act is totally different and new. Gore effects are all practical. The makeup effects for the mutants, I think, are fantastic. I think this is a very well done remake. Came out in 2006, so I was in probably 8th grade. No, Halloween, I remember I was in 9th grade. I remember that. 2007, The Hitcher, I think is a piece of shit. Because I really like the 86 original film with C. Thomas Howell, who played Ponyboy, and Rutger Hauer as the Hitcher. That was a great cat and mouse movie. I thought that was very well done. The Hitcher, they turn it into just another generic... Oh, that's another Michael Bay, Andrew Form, Brad Fuller, Platinum Dunes movie. Just Sean Bean as the Hitcher, I thought was boring. It had to be a couple he was going after instead of one person. Of course, it had to be the girl that lived at the end. They just turned it into a generic movie. And I wasn't a fan of it at all. House of Wax talked about, House on Haunted Hill. Oh, they remade How to Make a Monster in 2001. I didn't know that. I Spit on Your Grave. I mean, I can... Yeah, I'd say I actually like that. The sequels suck. I have the original Spit on Your Grave, and I have the 3 new ones. 2 and 3, I think, are pointless and stupid. But I do have the original and the remake. I would say the remake is better. Because, I mean, it's rape revenge. It's not going to be a good movie. I mean, that's all. You just go into movies like that for the shock value. And I honestly think the original was kind of boring, and the deaths, there was like one that was actually kind of worth it. In the remake, every death, every kill was good and done well. Body Snatchers 78. It's Alive. I remember seeing that. I think that same buddy of mine that had the eye also had this, but I never watched it. The Initiation of Sarah. No, that looks like a Sabrina teenage witch type movie. Alright. That's a remake? Oh. Another Eli Roth film I actually liked. I did not know this was a remake of Knock Knock. Remake of the 1977 film Death Game, which I've never seen or heard of. These 2 girls show up at Keanu Reeves' house. They seduce him, and then they just toy with his life because he cheated on his wife. And I have never hated antagonists in a film as much as the 2 girls in here. I was hoping Keanu Reeves was going to be able to do something about them. I think I just kind of spoiled it. Oops. Spoiler alert. Last House on the Left. Similar to, I Spit on Your Grave. It's another a rape revenge movie. I would say the original, it's a Wes Craven movie from 1972. I would say the original is better than the original I Spit on Your Grave. But I remember up until the revenge actually starts happening, it's incredibly boring with poor acting. But once, the shocking stuff starts happening, it is done in a very raw, kind of shocking way. Like with the music and camera angles and stuff. Last House on the Left, I would say that I like it. Let Me In, I saw parts of. It's a remake of Let the Right One In, which is a Swedish movie from 2008. Because that was another thing. There were all these foreign films in the 2000s that were becoming popular. So, of course, we had to remake them. I have some that I'll get to once I get further down. Let Me In, yeah, I that same buddy of mine, I think I had to go to work or something. But I never finished it. Lights Out. Oh, that 2016 movie that I didn't care to see either because it's Supernatural. Oh, it's based on a remake of a short film. Maniac. And that is a mannequin. Now, Maniac, the original from 1980, is one of my favorite slasher films. One of my favorite horror films. When I heard they were going to do Maniac, I was like, why? When I heard they were going to cast Elijah Wood as Frank Zito, I was like, Elijah Wood? He's a fucking wimp in everything. But then I saw it, and, almost the whole movie's in POV, so it's like you're seeing through his eyes. The music is fantastic. The gore and the kills is very well done. I really like the Maniac remake. I would say this is one of the better ones also. But the original film from 1980 is one of my favorite horror films. I mean, that's the original cover. I do own both Maniacs, too. Mark of the Vampire? What the hell's that? Oh. 1935 movie. Martyrs, I don't know why they remade. I haven't seen the remake. It's a remake of the 2008 French film, which I do have. But, yeah, I don't plan on seeing that. Mirrors, I didn't know that was a remake. I don't remember shit. I saw that years ago. Mother's Day, I never saw either. My Bloody Valentine. I really like the original one from 1981. I think that's one of the better 80s slasher films. The remake from 2006. Oh, 2009. Oh. I actually saw it with a bunch of friends. I had a bunch of friends over and we watched it. The 3D is alright, but of course, since it's 3D, a lot of the blood and gore effects have to be CGI, and I thought it looked like shit. I really didn't like it when I first saw it. It kind of grows on me. It's still not a great movie, and the effects still kind of bug me. Because it's CGI, I still own both, but I really like the original more. A bunch of foreign ones here. Night of the Demons, 2009. Never saw it. I didn't care for the original. Night of the Living Dead, 1990, I talked about. Night of the Living Dead 3D. I've seen this at the store I go to. You know, with Sid Haig from Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses. Another remake of Night of the Living Dead. I don't care to see it. I guess they want to do a sequel called Night of the Living Dead Reanimated with Jeffrey Combs, which means it's going to fuse Reanimator, another one of my favorite horror movies. I don't care to see those. Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, another Platinum Dunes. This is one that I started off really liking. I saw this in theaters by myself when I was a senior in high school. The more I saw it, the more I'm taken out of it. Because the dream worlds are not that interesting. A lot of the kills and stuff and lines are just taken, even from the sequels. Rooney Mara is a terrible Nancy Thompson. Nothing like Heather Langenkamp. And of course, there's only one Freddy Krueger, and that's Robert Englund. Jackie Earle Haley, does what he can, but he's no Robert Englund. I would say with the story, and there's other things that just don't make sense, like why he slits a guy's throat when he has these. Like the story makes more sense. How he was a child molester, who the kids told on him, then the parents got revenge, so he's getting revenge on the kids in their dreams. As opposed to the original, when he was a child murderer, parents killed him, then he's getting revenge on the parents by killing the kids he hasn't killed yet. It seems to make more sense. And I own all the Elm Street movies, and the 4-hour documentary of Never Sleep Again, which I also have the 7-hour Camp Crystal Lake Memories of the Friday 13th. After Elm Street 3 was when it really started to get silly and I started to get out of it. Like Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, I fucking hate because it's so goofy and silly. But this, they tried to go scary again, so I applaud them for that. I would still say it's sort of in the middle. I know there's worse, but oh, yeah. The Omen. which people remember because it came out 6606. I was in 8th grade. I remember I really wanted to see the original, so I asked my parents if they'd rent it for me. Then they came home with this. We watched it, and I haven't seen it since. I remember it's a piece of shit. I don't want to see it again because the original Omen is one of my all-time favorite movies. I think it's fantastic, and I guess this is almost as bad as far as being the same as the 1998 Psycho. One Missed Call I never saw. That's a remake of a Takashi Miike film, a Japanese film. I heard it was terrible though. Piranha, didn't know that. Oh no, I did know Piranha was a remake. 1995. Okay, so I have seen one from the 80s. This one has Mila Kunis in her debut role. I've seen parts of it on TV. Poltergeist, never saw, don't care to, because I love the original film. If that's another one I don't own, sadly. If I had it, I definitely would have held it up when I did my honorable mentions for horror. Prom Night, I didn't see that either because that's just another piece of shit, PG-13, watered down, shitty movie. I have the original. I don't remember much about it because it's been years since I've seen it. Psycho I talked about. Pulse I've heard of but I've never seen. Quarantine. That is actually Deb from Dexter. This is a found footage movie, 2008 remake of the Spanish film Wreck, which was 2007. I own Wreck 1 and 2. I haven't seen 3. I've seen 4. And I have both Quarantines. But the first Wreck and first Quarantine are the only ones that have anything to do with each other. And yeah, it is also shot for shot, everything for everything remake like Psycho. I would say Wreck is better. Usually when I watch a foreign film, I like to watch it in its natural language because the dubbing and the lips are all fucked up. Wreck, you have no choice; you have to watch it in Spanish. But I would say Quarantine. Wreck, I think, is scarier and better made, but Quarantine, I like how they switched it from demonic possession to rabies. Because they're zombie movies, so it made more sense to me. The demonic, like, I know I love The Exorcist, and I absolutely love the Evil Dead films, but Evil Dead films are just fun. Fun, crazy movies. The Exorcist seems to be done in the most realistic sense. But there's shit in the first 2 Wreck movies that remind me of what happened in those 2 Grave Encounter films, found footage, haunting films that I hated. Just stuff that is so off the wall that my suspension of disbelief just can't. I can't go that far. But I do like Wreck and I do like Quarantine. The Ring. I don't know, yeah, they remade a Rocky Horror on TV. I guess that counts. See No Evil, I didn't know that was a remake. I never saw it. Shudder. Oh. Another Japanese film that we remade. Silent Night. Ugh. I hated this movie. Because I waited years for this to come out. Because I'm a big fan of the 1984 Silent Night, Deadly Night. The Killer Santa. I think it's very well done. And I was in high school, and I was reading online that it was supposed to be remade by Alexander Aja, the guy that did Hills Have Eyes. So like, oh, the guy that remade Hills Have Eyes is going to do Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's going to be awesome. That was in like 2009 or 10. And this came out in 2012. So I waited a few years. I redboxed it. It has very little to do with the original film. It's directed by Steven C. Miller, who's just a terrible director. He loves shaky cams, so you can never tell what's going on. Terrible acting. Just very disappointing. I hated it. Sisters. Oh, it's a remake of a Brian De Palma film. Okay. Solstice. I've actually never heard of that. It looks terrible, though. Looks like another CW type movie. I've never heard of it. Sorority Row. Let's fix this again. There. 2009 slash film Sorority Row. That I did not see, but it's a remake of the 83 film The House on Sorority Row, which I have the original. It's very forgettable. Group of sorority girls pull a prank on their mean sorority leader, whatever they're called, and they cover it up so they can have a party. It's not bad, but it's forgetful. I haven't seen the remake. Stalker. Never heard of that. Stepfather, I never saw. I've seen parts of the original. I haven't seen any of the sequels or the remake. Suspiria. This just came out last year. Now the original, which came out in 1977, is a Dario Argento film, and I'm a big fan of Italian, like 70s and 80s Italian horror films. That was one I don't know what happened to it. I know I didn't get rid of it. I wish I still had it, because I really liked the original Suspiria. And I heard this movie was shit. And I don't plan on seeing it. Which, just out of curiosity, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 66. Okay, I guess not as bad as I thought it was. Chainsaw Massacre, 13 Ghosts, never heard of The Tomb. Toolbox Murders, it's a Tobe Hooper film who did Poltergeist and the original Chainsaw Massacre. I have the remake. It's kind of forgettable. I've seen it a couple times, and I remember the first time I didn't really like it. Second time, it wasn't as bad as I remembered. I would love to see the original 79 film. It was what's known as a video nasty, which were banned horror films back then. So I would like to see the original. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. It's a movie. It says slasher film and a meta sequel. So is it a remake? Well, now see, the original 76 film I've always wanted to see. I like that true story of, was it Colorado? Was it Nebraska? Wherever it was, where a guy was going around killing people. He never got caught. And the movie came out like shortly after it happened. So it was like the ending of Halloween, where when Michael Myers isn't laying on the lawn anymore. So it's like he's out there and could be anywhere. That's what people thought when they saw this original film. And I've always wanted to see it. But whenever I saw it at the store, it was like some Criterion version, so it was always like super expensive. So I never got to see it. And I don't know if this... I remember when this was announced and came out, I was like, well, I'll check that one out. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. But I want to... Now that it says a meta sequel, I think it's not entirely a remake. Oh yeah, Trucks. That's a TV movie. It's a remake of Maximum Overdrive. I have Maximum Overdrive. it's a very ridiculous movie, but I mean, it is kind of fun to see trucks run over people and AC/DC is the soundtrack. I I think I remember I was in elementary school and I caught bits and pieces of this. I heard it was terrible. The Uninvited, that same friend of mine had that, caught pieces of it. It's just another, yeah. Oh, it's a remake of a Korean film, A Tale of Two Sisters. Never heard of it. Oh, I forgot to mention, in '95, John Carpenter remade Village of the Damned, which I remember when that came out, weirdly enough. And I used to have that part of a John Carpenter collection, which I wish I still had, because it had They Live in it also. We Are What We Are. I've never heard of either one. When a Stranger Calls. That, like Black Christmas, I've always wanted to see the 1979 original with Carol Kane. I always wanted to see it, but I can never find it. When a Stranger... A friend of mine gave me this because he was getting rid of some movies. This is another PG-13, shitty, nothing happens horror movie. Completely pointless. It's a pointless movie. It doesn't even need to exist. But I would like to see the original. Shit. 2006 was The Wicker Man. Yes, this is the movie when Nicolas Cage gets the bees. Not the bees, not the bees. I didn't see it. I heard it was terrible. I think I've seen pieces of the... I think the original is part of that same collection of 50 classics. But I haven't seen that Wicker Man. 2003, there's a remake of Willard, the guy with the rats. My girlfriend's dad likes the original. I've always been kind of interested in seeing either or. That has Crispin Glover, which Crispin Glover was also in The Wizard of Gore, which I have not seen, but I do have the original 1970 Herschel Gordon Lewis film. And I mean, yeah, the gore effects, they look fake, but they're still done practically. And it is kind of a crazy, mind-twisting movie, even for 1970, low budget. Actually, I have a handful of Herschel Gordon Lewis films that are like that. I have almost all of them. And of course, The Wolfman, never saw, didn't need to, because I like the original. The original from the 30s. Wrath, that's Japanese. So yeah, those are the ones that have come out. And I mean, when all these were coming out, they weren't... That's not all that was coming out. I mean, in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, there was what was called torture porn, which I think is a stupid title. That's what they associate Saw and Hostel with. Then they had, once those died out, you had like the Paranormal Activity, which I call Paranormal Fucktivity. Because I hate found footage ghost movies. I think they're boring. I think they're stupid. I can't get into them enough. I think they're cheap, and by cheap I mean jump scares or spooky scares. Whether it be found footage or not found footage. And then, you know, there was, in the 2010s, around the 2010s, there was the artistic horror film, like Human Centipede, Martyrs, Serbian Film. Just the truly shocking, gross, disturbing ones. Which other ones, like the French film Inside, which I have. I have a Serbian film, but it doesn't work because I bought it off iOffer. I have the first two Human Centipedes. I have the Argentinian film Snuff 102. I have the August Underground trilogy. For some reason, all these really fucked up, they're called sick, twisted fuck movies. Those are called artistic. Why? I don't know. They're no more artistic than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And you only watch them for the shock value. But yeah, then we started remaking those. And then there was another resurgence in the 2010s of the shitty PG-13 supernatural movies like Ouija, Unfriended. I think Annabelle was PG-13. All those movies suck. And you're probably wondering, during that list, why did I not mention It or Pet Sematary? Well, they are not remakes. They are just newer adaptations of Stephen King books. It I liked. I mean, the CGI kind of bummed me out at parts. I thought the CGI sucked. And I actually liked it more than the original. I mean, don't take away my horror fan card, but I think the original 1990 Stephen King's It is a little overrated. But I did like 2017 It. I really want to see the new Pet Sematary. I have the original. But the new one looks really good. I guess they divert from the book in some ways. But see, my prediction was, depending on how Pet Sematary did, that was going to be the new stage in horror, was just more faithful adaptations of Stephen King. Oh, then there's also what's going on right now, the intellectual horror film. Like Get Out, Quiet Place, Us. Pretty much if there's some clever metaphor or some sort of social commentary like racism. The only one I saw was Get Out. I didn't see the two Jordan Peele films. I heard Get Out was amazing. It didn't really seem like anything I'd be interested in. And if that's anything like Ghostbusters, where if I don't watch it, then I'm racist, I don't want to hear it. But then just a little list of ones that are announced and what's coming up. They're going to remake The Fly again? Of course. I just saw it, and I liked it, so now they have to remake it. Pet Sematary. American Werewolf in London. I really like that movie. I have the original from '81. That's a good John Landis movie. We don't need that. Starship Troopers. That's not a horror film. Maniac Cop. I actually never saw the original. I've heard of it. I've never been able to get a hold of it. Escape from New York. That's actually a John Carpenter movie I haven't seen. Day of the Dead. Oh. Yeah, this is from 2017. That already came out. It's called Bloodlines. Orphanage. Oh, it's another English language remake of a foreign film. Videodrome. Another Cronenberg movie? Rabid, another Cronenberg movie? I heard Videodrome was really good. I can't find that or Rabid anywhere. I want to start a Cronenberg collection. I only have a couple. Cujo. Yep, see, they're going to keep doing more and more Stephen King adaptations now because it was super successful. The Birds. Psycho was unsuccessful. Disturbia was pretty much a remake of Rear Window. Rear Window itself was remade with Christopher Reeve in the 90s. I don't think... You can't remake Hitchcock films. Don't Look Now. I don't even know what that is. They want to remake Body Snatchers again? Pumpkinhead, that was a series I never cared for. Oh yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. Because people didn't like the reboot. Robert Englund retired the character. Then he has one more in him. Robert Englund said he didn't like the reboot. So now he wants to do another one. So we might get another Elm Street remake. The Grudge. Another remake of The Grudge. You know, if it was made in like the 2000s, you don't have to remake. You shouldn't have to remake anything. Because most of them suck. Nosferatu. This is bumming me out. Nosferatu is one of my favorite of like... It's my favorite silent film, regardless. And it's one of my favorite vampire films next to the original Dracula. and I'm a huge fan of Universal monster movies, which I heard they want to release a series with like Johnny Depp and like everyone. Like they want to redo Frankenstein. Nosferatu's not Universal, but and Dracula and Wolfman and Black Lagoon, Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein. Jacob's Ladder. That's a good movie too. I mean, it's a 91 movie. So it's not like super, this year I was born, but that's a very imaginative movie. That's the one, it's confusing, but that's what inspired Silent Hill. I like Jacob's Ladder. Well, and according to that, that's it. Yeah, the horror remakes, I thought around 2013 with like Carrie and Evil Dead, that was when it died out. I consider 2003 to 13 the decade of remakes because they've been sporadic since then. But, you know, anything before then, you know, I explained in the beginning of the video. We don't need any more remakes, especially of good movies, because they always suck. I mean, it even got to the point where they weren't even doing horror anymore. I mean, look, they did Ghostbusters, which I pleasantly talked about in my last video. They did 80s movies, which I'm not a big 80s guy other than horror, but they remade Footloose, Dirty Dancing, Red Dawn. I never saw the original or remakes of any of those. But, you know, they're remaking everything now. There's such... And this is the shitty thing. In the independent world, there are original good films. Hollywood's just like, well, these were made at one point. People know what they are, so they'll come and see this. We'll make money. It's horse shit, but that's what happens. So, yeah, a little history of remakes, horror remakes, and my opinions. So, who knows? Maybe I'll remake this video again when more come out. Anyway. Room 237, I'm out. Thank you.